There's a moment, for a lot of people, when their relationship with money quietly changes shape. It doesn't usually happen on a big day. No raise, no windfall, no dramatic event. It tends to happen on an ordinary day, triggered by something small enough that most people almost miss it entirely. I want to talk about what that moment actually looks like, and why it matters more than almost any single financial decision someone makes in a given year. For most people, the starting point looks something like this. Money is something to be managed in the moment. A paycheck arrives, bills get paid, whatever's left gets spent on whatever feels good that week, and the whole cycle resets. There's nothing wrong with this exactly. It's simply the default way most of us are taught to relate to money, without ever really being taught it at all. We just absorb it, the way we absorb an accent, from everyone around us doing the same thing. Old money thinking is different, and it has almost nothing to do with how much money someone actually has. It's a shift in time horizon. Instead of asking, "What can this afford me right now?" the question quietly becomes, "What does this cost me 5 years from now in the version of my life I actually want?" That's the entire shift. It sounds small. It changes almost everything downstream of it. I think about a woman I've come to know through this channel's community who described the exact week this shift happened for her. She was 28, recently promoted, sitting in a restaurant with colleagues who were all comparing which watches, which trips, which cars had come with their own recent raises. She'd already put a new lease payment on her own card that same month, mostly because sitting quietly in an old car next to everyone else's new ones had started to feel like a small, constant confession. That night, a woman at the table, older, in finance for decades, dressed plainly, wearing a watch that looked like it had never once been the point of the conversation, said something almost in passing. "The car doesn't know what you're worth, neither does anyone looking at it." Nobody responded much. The conversation moved on within seconds, but she couldn't stop thinking about it. Not because it was profound exactly, but because it was true in a way she hadn't let herself notice yet. Here's what I think is actually happening in a moment like that. Up until that point, money had been functioning as a kind of signal, sent outward, toward other people, proving something. The shift that happens afterward is that money starts functioning as a signal sent inward instead, toward a future version of the same person, proving something only to them. Nobody else ever sees this signal. That's precisely what makes it so different from the version most of us start with. This shows up in a handful of specific, almost boring ways once it actually takes hold. The first is a change in what debt feels like. Before the shift, debt is something to be managed month to month, a number that gets pushed slightly further away each cycle. After the shift, debt becomes something to be actively, specifically eliminated on a timeline, because it's understood as the opposite of the 5-year question. Debt is what other people's 5-year decisions cost you, sitting on your own statement. The second is a change in what a raise means. Before the shift, a raise tends to expand the version of life being financed immediately. A bigger apartment, a nicer car, a lifestyle that quietly grows to match the new number. After the shift, a raise tends to get partially redirected before it ever reaches the lifestyle at all, automatically, before there's a chance to feel it and spend it. The third, and probably the most important, is a change in what volatility feels like. Before the shift, a market downturn feels like a personal failure, something that happened to a decision that was supposed to be safe. After the shift, a downturn is understood as a normal, expected, almost boring feature of a multi-decade plan, uncomfortable in the moment, but not remotely a signal to change course. None of these 3 shifts requires more money to begin. That's the part that tends to surprise people the most when they actually sit with it. Someone earning a modest, ordinary salary can make this shift completely, and someone earning a genuinely large salary can go their entire life without making it at all, spending in a way that quietly always outpaces whatever comes in, regardless of how large the number grows. There's a specific reason old money families, historically, have talked about wealth so rarely, so quietly, almost to the point of secrecy. It's not simply etiquette or tradition for its own sake. Once the internal signal replaces the external one, there's genuinely less to say out loud. The number stops needing an audience, because it was never really performing for one in the first place. I think this is worth sitting with, especially for anyone who feels like they're behind simply because their life doesn't look like the version they see around them. The people quietly furthest ahead are frequently the hardest to spot, precisely because being visibly ahead was never actually the goal they were working toward. There's also a genuine cost to this shift that's worth naming honestly, because it isn't only positive. Once money stops functioning as a signal sent toward other people, a specific kind of quiet distance can open up between you and the people still sending that signal outward. It's not judgment, exactly. It's simply that the conversation about money starts to feel different in a way that's hard to explain without sounding like something you're not trying to say. That distance is real, and it's rarely mentioned in most conversations about building wealth, probably because it doesn't fit neatly into a success story. So here's a genuine question worth asking yourself, the same one that quietly changed things for the woman at that dinner table years ago. Is a specific purchase in your life right now functioning as a signal sent outward toward other people, or is it actually building toward the 5-year version of your own life that you actually want to be living? The honest answer isn't always comfortable. It doesn't need to be acted on immediately. It just needs to be noticed, the way she noticed it for the first time on an otherwise unremarkable night. I'd love to know, has there been a specific moment, a specific sentence someone said to you that quietly changed how you think about money? Tell me about it in the comments. If this kind of honest, reflective look at how real wealth actually gets built is useful to you, this is part of an ongoing series here on Quiet Wealth, and subscribing means you'll catch the next one. Thank you for spending these few minutes with me today.